Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Coe Show. I am here with my co-host, the shorter and uglier version of me, Aaron Coe. For those who don't know us, we are huge Seattle sports fans. For those who do know us, you've talked to us enough or seen our social media enough to know that already. We talk about pretty much sports all the time, and we figured, we have some interesting conversations, I'd say.
We do, and I'm usually right. So that's the best part.
But we figured we might as well at least record it, and maybe we can listen to it down the road if absolutely zero other people listen to it, which I feel like might be the case.
Millions of people out there right now listening.
This is kind of weird though because for the first couple episodes, it'll definitely just be people that we know watching, and then hopefully we are able to keep this up and keep it moving forward, and maybe some people that we don't know will start watching us. But I figure, since the grandparents and the family friends are watching,
Hi, Mom.
um, I figure we probably give a little bit of a disclaimer. We will be using our full vocabulary. So that means if you don't want to listen to me say bad words, turn this shit off and go ahead and go listen to Oprah's podcast. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Music. Really, any audio platform. Go ahead and listen to hers. But yeah, so we figured, what is a better way to really introduce ourselves than to list our 10 favorite athletes? And these aren't just who is the best player on our favorite teams. These are guys that, for whatever reason, we have some odd personal connection to. Guys that we grew up with playing, we just like watching play, we like their personality, whatever it is, we took a liking to them specifically more than other players. I guess let's just jump right into it, huh?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. I have some honorable mentions. Do you?
I do.
Okay, so we have some honorable mentions, and I have it listed 10-1. I'm not gonna say that these are in particular exact order, but I'm just gonna in general move up to my number one spot. Go ahead, start off with your first honorable mention.
Okay, yeah, and mine are not. Mine are somewhat in order, but not exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just kind of all over the map. There's a couple Hall of Famers in there. There's a walk on at UW.
Yeah.
There's kind of a mix, and like Mason said, these are guys that I just loved for whatever reason, and those reasons vary quite a bit. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go way back to before you were born. And the first football game that I ever remember watching was Pittsburgh Dallas Super Bowl. I believe it was 1979, early 1979, so 78 season, I think it was. So I was in West Virginia at the time, and a lot of the kids around there loved the Pittsburgh Steelers. I can hear some of you booing right now, hopefully. I fucking hated the Steelers. I hated them. I don't know why. It's like they were in another state. I didn't understand why people liked them. I'm like, what is wrong with you people? And back then, we had like 2 TV stations. So the Dallas Cowboys were on TV. Now I hear the rest of you booing. The Dallas Cowboys were on TV a lot. So I kind of loved the star on the helmet. They were my first sports love, I guess. Kind of moved away from that over time, but the hero of that team was Roger Staubach. And he was he was in the Navy like my dad was, and there's just he was kind of a clean cut guy, probably the most clean cut guy on this list maybe. He was kind of my first hero. And I'll never forget Jackie Smith dropping that goddamn pass in the end zone. It still pisses me off.
I can even picture that because you've showed me that multiple times.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, come on, man, catch the ball. But they lost that Super Bowl, but I was a fan of them for years, just watching them. And that's the first game I remember. And I think shouldn't say this. Don't call CPS on my mom, but I think I was alone in the house. It's like 8 years old. I don't know where they were. They might have been there. I just remember feeling like I was alone and pounding on the walls and shit when they lost the game.
No.
35-31, I think it was, and that was a tough one.
Brutal.
Tough one.
All right. So I have four honorable mentions. I'm the.
Oh, we're doing honorable mentions.
Oh, is that 10 for you?
That was 10. Well, I'll work back to so keep going.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
work back to honorable mentions.
My bad. My bad.
No, you're
It doesn't
good.
really matter though. So yeah, my first honorable mention. This man is known as the clipboard Jesus by many. Charlie Whitehurst. Let me
Wow.
tell you about Charlie Whitehurst. Super Bowl champion Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints coming to town, and quarterback is hurt. You know, it's the wild card game. We are just written off. Everyone. I remember seeing on broadcast. You know, they make the picks for the teams. I don't think one broadcaster picked the Seahawks.
Yeah.
I could be wrong on that, but yeah, I remember thinking we were screwed too. I was watching the game because you told me, like, I was pretty young at the time. You're like, all right, we're probably not going to win this, but
Yeah.
yeah. And then obviously, you know, the infamous Beastquake happened, but just because I don't even think he had a good game, just because he was able to hold it together and win that playoff game against the defending champions. Yeah, I just have to put him on the list. Had to.
Yeah. I mean, he's just one of those guys that, hey, he didn't fuck it up in a crucial moment.
Exactly.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Beastquake doesn't happen if he throws 5 picks. So
Yep. There you
give
go.
him some credit for sure. Yeah. Are we going back and forth on
Yeah.
that? Okay.
We'll go back and forth.
Yeah. So I have several of them. So one of them, I see her working out from time to time. Down at LA Fitness where we both work out, and that's Danielle Laurie. Just a great Husky, national champion, player of the year. Just a beast, could hit too. Great pitcher, pitched double headers on this, same day. Yeah, just an amazing, one of the great Huskies of all time. Plus, I get to watch her work out once in a while. So
Yeah, I mean, this might be breaking news actually. She might be making a comeback, it seems like. I mean, she's doing some real pitcher drills in the gym. She may be trying to go for the Olympics.
Yeah, she was going to be on. So she's Canadian. She was going to be on the Canadian Olympic team.
Okay.
So she's been busting her ass. I've seen it, and I can see her doing pitcher drills and just general weight training, just busting her ass. But it sounds like that's going to be pushed back a year now.
Yeah, I mean, some of the drills she was doing, I remember like Annie doing in her early pitching days
Right.
with not really, she wasn't. Yeah, I mean, anyway. Yeah, that's a great pick though. That is someone that if I would have thought of, I probably would have put her on my honorable mention list as well, honestly. All right, so next honorable mention, the main man, John Daly. Never watched golf ever in my entire life. I never watched John Daly play golf either, but he's just such a legend of a human. I had to put him on the list. He, infamously ate ice cream out of the trophy he won, which is very frowned upon in golf. It's not quite like the NHL.
that button down golf.
Exactly, yeah, and I just love the way he just did not care about the gold standard in golf, and he just went out and did his own thing, and he looked great doing it, and yeah, I mean, what else can you say about John Daly?
Tee it up high and let it fly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, also, I think he's a 30 for 30. Is it? There's some sort of. I think it's a 30 for 30.
So.
Watch his 30 for 30. It's awesome. That's why he's on the list. If I hadn't seen that 30 for 30, he would not be on this list.
Good one. Gosh, the guy, next guy on my list has some things in common with John Daly, and it's Kenny Stabler.
Okay.
When I was a real little kid, but he was just a badass. I mean, the guy's like, shooting pool and, drinking whiskey and having a few lung darts before the game or the night before the game, played hungover, and just went out there and won. Didn't give two fucks about what anybody thought, and just went out there and got it done. The Raiders were another team that was on TV a bit when I was a kid because they were really good. But yeah, he was a guy that just almost, he's like a movie character, that go out there just hungover and sling it.
Hell
it's pretty
yeah.
sweet.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Next honorable mention for me. This has nothing to do with the quality of play for our beloved Seattle Mariners. This has nothing to do with how he pitched, but just the fact that you knew when he stepped on the mound, you had to be watching. My man Fernando Rodney.
Oh God.
He just absolute
No.
must-watch television, man.
Uh,
During a time where our Mariners have been terrible for 20 years. I mean, not terrible for 20 years, but I mean, it's. I mean, what else can you say about Fernando Rodney? I mean, when he steps on the mound, you got to be watching. He'll put a guy on, he'll make it exciting, and it gave us a reason to watch. You wanted to see him shoot the air at the end of the game, but you knew damn well it might not happen. At any moment he could be putting a guy on, and the next guy up could just be bringing him home. So yeah,
it's amazing how many times he went out there and, like you said, he would walk a guy, give up a hit. Next thing you know, runners at second and third, maybe an out if you're lucky, and he would usually get it done. But at the end of every game, I was like, "Damn you, Rodney! You got lucky that time, but tomorrow night you better not do this shit." And usually he saved it. It was never pretty, but usually he got the save. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just absolute electricity on the television screen every single time.
Yes. Okay, so next guy on my list is Steve Scheffler.
No idea.
You know who that is?
No idea. Not even a clue.
So you'd probably have to be my age. The thing I liked about Steve, so he was like the backup of all backups on the good Sonics teams in the mid '90s.
Okay.
And he hardly played. He did set the NCAA record for field goal percentage his senior year. He was like a 6'9" center, didn't have a ton of athletic ability, but they used to do this thing back. I don't know if they still do this, but in the NBA, they all wanted to kind of carry an extra guy, so you could have a guy on the injured list. So, like, basically, you would have an extra guy, and you just rotate who was the injured guy.
Right.
And I remember watching a game, and I was looking at the newspaper, and like, oh, Steve Scheffler's on the injured list again, because he was injured like half the year, but he's out there doing warm-ups.
Yeah.
And he's out with a left knee injury, and there's a brace on his right knee, right? That cracked me up.
Oh my God.
But he was a great practice player. He's one of those guys that didn't have a ton of athletic ability, but he made the team better because he worked his ass off in practice. So I think he was, kind of a hidden reason why those teams were good, as he brought it. That's why he stayed on the team for a few years, because it wasn't because of his play on the court.
Oh yeah.
But I always just liked him, and he was kind of a cult hero back then.
Nice.
It was fun.
Yeah. Okay. So this guy, I either was gonna put him as an honorable mention or very high up on my top 10, which doesn't make much sense. But I figured, this guy. I mean, it's King James.
Wow.
It's
okay.
King James. I mean, the thing is, how many kids my age are gonna put LeBron James in the top 5? Like, everyone. So I figured it was a little bit of a cop-out. I decided to kind of go a little bit more personal than that. I mean, I think he's the GOAT. He's my favorite player in the NBA right now. As long as the Sonics aren't around, I'll probably be rooting for him. So I just decided to put him as an honorable mention because I had to shout him out for sure. But I decided, it wasn't quite a personal favorite.
Right.
It's King James. I mean, everyone loves him, especially my age. So
yeah. Well, he is the second best player in NBA history, in my opinion. But
you'll hear a lot about that probably in the future.
No, he's a great player. And yeah, he's fun to watch. I like him. I don't feel that personal connection to him either. He seems like on a different. I don't have Jordan on my list either.
Yeah.
Just because he's like on another planet, and I didn't have a personal connection to him than watching him kick my team's ass. But.
That's how I felt, but I did want to shout him out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is kind of he would be on my top 10 favorite athletes and my top 10 least favorite athletes all at once. It's a very confusing thing that I have with Billy Joe Hobart.
Joe Hobart.
So
you told me about him before.
He had a lot of Kenny Stabler in him, So first of all, Mark Brunell was the quarterback going into the 1991 University of Washington football season, and he blows his knee out in the spring. So now Billy Joe is the starter. He was a very high level recruit, but Mark Brunell had beaten him out, which was a surprise. But now suddenly he's the guy, and they throw him in there, and all he does is go 12-0 and win a national championship. Now, later it was discovered that he had gotten some loans. Hey, the dude wanted to buy a couple Camaros and some guns. He's from Puyallup. I mean, that's what you do. I mean, come on.
At least make it a little less obvious, dude. Come on, man. You're selling the whole team out.
So this ended up getting the team on probation and kind of started a downward spiral for many years. So that part I hate. But the funny thing is what he did. A lot of people don't know this, but what he actually did was never really proven to be a violation because he didn't get the loan based on his pro potential. It was like a family friend. These days they would say, pay it back, pay it back and no harm, no foul. But back then they really, that team, UW team, was one of the last teams to just get slammed because of somewhat minor violations. And the NCAA kind of looks the other way, I think, a lot more than they did.
Was it a similar situation to like Chase Young then? Because that was a family friend, wasn't it?
It was similar to that, yeah. Okay. And Chase Young could have been back after a few games.
Yeah, I mean,
if you paid it back.
Ultimately, it didn't cost him anything at all.
Yeah. So but Billy Joe he basically left. Went into the NFL draft. He was drafted in the second or third round.
Did he do anything in the pros?
He started here and there, but he just wasn't. Little Ryan Leafish, like he not quite to that degree, but he just didn't work hard enough.
Right. Okay.
Well, we can go into that a whole other time, but he did win. He was the quarterback on the national championship team. He was a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
Right.
The rest after that is why he's on my least favorite.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So I am now moving into my top 10. You already said your 10 spot, right?
Yeah. So I'll do one more. I'll do one more honorable mention.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
And this is going to be, so his name is Bino Bryant. He was also on that Billy Joe Hobart team.
Oh, okay.
And this is kind of funny, but you talk about a personal connection. When I was in high school, I bought a UW football jersey because I played, sandlot football with my buddies, and I got tired of them ripping my shirt off.
Yeah.
To see my big belly, So I bought number 29 jersey, and then when I went to the UW, he was number 29.
Oh, so you were wearing his jersey?
That's my guy.
Yeah.
And at first he didn't play much, but he ended up being the starting running back.
Oh, wow.
On that team. Was a great punt returner. And when I was walking, I wore it on campus one day to class, and Lincoln Kennedy, he's a first-round NFL draft pick.
Yeah.
I don't know, 6'7", 325.
Big man.
Maybe bigger than that. I walk by and I'm like, oh shit, that's Lincoln Kennedy. And he looks at me and he goes, "You're not Bino Bryant."
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kennedy. Pissed my pants and walked away.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, but Bino Bryant was he had great speed, great punt set the UW record for punt returns at that time.
Oh wow.
And was just a ton of fun to watch, and he borrowed my number, so
You don't see very many running back punt returners anymore.
No, not too much.
The last one was like Darren Sproles, Danny Woodhead.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah, okay. So moving into my top 10 now. My number 10 spot would not have been here before last year, I don't think. I think last year is probably around when he moved up into the top 10. Probably a bit of a surprise, but is purely, again, for entertainment value. Patrick Beverly. He just makes games so fun to watch. Whether you like the way he plays defense or not, every single game he's in is so fun to watch. He's chirping. I mean, man, he brings the worst out of his opponents. It's awesome. I absolutely love it. And I have to respect him after that block he had on LeBron to end the game earlier this year. I mean, right. You say, a lot of people say he just runs around like Russell Westbrook specifically says he just runs around. He's not actually doing anything. He's just fooling you. But then he goes and does something like that to LeBron. And, clearly Russ was a little salty after that game, after Pat Bev, he didn't lock him up, but he held him a little. So yeah, Pat Bev, a little bit of a surprise probably, but
there's something about guys that can get into opponents' heads.
Yeah.
It's a valuable skill. But yeah, you kind of either love or hate those guys.
I absolutely love shit talk, especially in the NBA, and he just embodies it. I mean, you could argue that Draymond is up there with the shit talk too, but Pat Bev is just, I mean, every time the camera shows his face, he's just talking. It's just, and it just doesn't stop. You could tell he's just so annoying, and I love that. I just absolutely love it.
Right, right. So number 9 on my list is and this is a guy that was just, he didn't put up a lot of big numbers in the NFL. Again, you have to be an old man to know who he is, but his name, Billy White Shoes Johnson. And I think when I was a kid, I just liked his name. But he was mostly a punt and kickoff return guy. He did have some catches in the NFL. He only had 25 career touchdowns.
Oh.
But he made the most out of those touchdowns. So at a time where, these days it wouldn't stand out because they, you got them doing bye out there
right,
and whatever
yeah.
the hell else. But he just had this great dance that he would do and just kind of banging his knees together.
Oh yeah.
You've seen it.
I've seen it.
Some
100%.
point,
yeah.
But he just had a great enthusiasm for the game, and every time punt returns and kick returns, not the kick return as much. The returns aren't as good as they used to be. I think there used to be a lot more holes, and you could exploit.
There was
that
the
more.
wedge, right? Wasn't that?
Yeah. So, but back then, if you had a really good return guy, you held your breath. Every time that ball was in the air, you're like, oh, is he going to bring it back this time? And he was one of those guys. And then when he scored, he was just fun to watch, and I just loved that enthusiasm that he had.
For sure, yeah. So number 9, probably another surprise. The reason he's on the list is during another guy during the dark time that we are currently experiencing with the Mariners. He brought personality, and he brought, I would say, life to a terrible pitching staff. That will be the bartender, Tom Wilhelmsen. So I think that might seem like that. Yeah. That might seem like a weird pick right now, but I think 10, 15 years down the road, it'll look very smart because that man was a cult favorite, especially, talk about a good story. I mean, he literally was a bartender, and then he found his way to the majors, and he did pretty good there for a while, and he was a very solid pitcher for us during a terrible time. And when you went to a game, you would at least see him dancing or something in the bullpen. He made Mariners games tolerable.
That's not easy to do.
It's really not easy to do. Really not easy to do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he was fun. I enjoyed him as well. Okay, so next guy on my list is Ricky Henderson.
Oh, okay.
Played for a lot of teams, and I loved Ricky. First of all, the stolen base is not a big a part of baseball as it used to be, because when your guy's making $22 million a year, you don't want him breaking a hand or something and being out. But Ricky, I enjoyed. I didn't like it at times, but now just looking back, I really enjoyed his personality. I mean, he talked in the third person all the time. Ricky does this, Ricky does that. What I think was really incredible about him was the number of walks that he had. I'm trying to think. I think he was second. I think he's second. I think Barry Bonds might have passed him.
Right.
But he's right up there with Babe Ruth.
Wow.
And if you look at that list, it's mostly power hitters.
Yeah.
And Ricky could hit homers. I mean, I think he has the record for most leadoff homers.
Yeah, the whole point is you don't want to get him on base.
Yeah.
Steal.
So you didn't want to walk Ricky.
Yeah.
You wanted to walk Barry and Babe Ruth and those guys, but you did not want to walk Ricky Henderson because he drove you freaking crazy.
I mean, yeah, he'd either be on second the next pitch or he'd be in the pitcher's head the whole time.
Yeah, get in their heads, and it's frustrating. And he just had he had really good speed, obviously, but really it was just his instincts. He just animal instinct to know when the pitcher was going to the plate.
Yeah,
versus coming back to first. Yeah,
I mean, when I was, one of my baseball coaches, I think it might have been Kavika. Shout out Kavika if you ever listen to this podcast. So I think it was him. He was kind of telling us about reading pitchers and how when there's a guy on base, sometimes they'll wait the same amount of time every time. Sometimes they'll look twice every single time and then go. And he said that Ricky Henderson was probably the best all time at just finding little nuances in the pitcher. And just like Chase Utley is super good at it too. When he was on the Dodgers, apparently that was pretty much all he did was when he wasn't playing was just read the pitchers and say, "Oh, by the way, 4 count and you're gone." So I mean that apparently Ricky Henderson, obviously with the blazing speed and the quick reactions, but I think he was very good at looking at a pitcher and being able to tell exactly when they're about to get off, so he could steal. So my number 8 spot. This one is kind of a deep pull out of the bag, and I think there might be only one person that will listen to this that will know who I'm talking about. Channer, if you're still listening, if you haven't turned this off, shout out to you. Ryan Appleby.
Oh yeah.
Ryan Appleby. So there's a couple reasons I love him. For one thing, so John Brockman obviously was the star of that team. Ryan Appleby, just an absolute lights out shooter. And when Channer and I were young, he was always a big post guy, and I was a shooter, even though I was never good at basketball. Let me just get that out of the way. I was never good at basketball. But yeah, so it was always, we'd always, we'd be shooting hoops. He'd be John Brockman. I'd be Ryan Appleby. Also, NCAA 2K6. That's kind of a deep pull out of the memory bag. But I remember going through, and since you couldn't obviously use the names of the players, I went through and made the entire UW roster, and I made Ryan Appleby have like a 99.3, and I would just pull up with him just all night. So yeah, he was someone that I looked up to in my early basketball days, someone that, wasn't the most athletic by any means. Obviously I never was either, so he kind of, I guess, inspired me to start, getting the stroke down, so maybe I could hold my own on a basketball court, which I still was never able to do, but yeah.
The interesting thing about Appleby, so back in the day I was a sports reporter for the Everett Herald, and I covered a lot of those teams in high school. So Appleby went to Stanwood, and he was a really good point guard there. And I used to keep stats, but I always had trouble keeping assists. So I had to go to his mom and ask how many, because she would track the assist numbers. And he was a great high school point guard. Now in college but he would shoot hundreds. He would make hundreds of he basically had his own key to the Stanwood gym, and would make hundreds of jumpers every day from all different angles, and was a great point guard, but had to transition to just being more of a shooting guard at the next level. And yeah, he was fun to watch. I mean, he could shoot it from anywhere on the floor, and did.
Yeah,
and
so
made 'em.
I got his stats up right here. He shot 42%. His I didn't realize he went to Florida his freshman year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
he was throwback. So you remember? Oh, who's the guy that they called White Chocolate that went to
Jason
Florida?
Williams.
Yeah, or Jason, was it Williams?
Williams, yeah.
That was his hero. So he went to Florida because he wanted to be the next White Chocolate. And it just didn't work out there. So he ended up transferring to UW.
Yeah, he didn't get minutes really. I think Florida was really good then.
They were, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he transferred to UW. In his time at UW, he shot 42%, 43%, and then 38% his senior year. But his senior year, he took almost 8 threes per game.
Yeah, he was just jacking them up all over the place.
Which is just insane, especially for college.
That's still a great percentage.
Yeah, 38% is still a great percentage, but especially at 7.7 attempts per game. I mean, yeah, so he was a guy that I kind of, looked up to very early on in my sports career as someone that, he made it work. So I wanted to do the same.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. All right, next guy on my list is the Bone, Jay Buhner. Yeah, he was another one that just was a lot of fun. Obviously a really good power hitter. Had multiple 40 home run seasons. Had just an absolute gun. Could throw the runner out at third from out there from right field. He could puke on command, which I don't know.
I did not know.
Yeah,
wow.
He could do it. And, yeah. I did not personally see it, but all the sports writers knew it. Like you could just say puke and he could just do it. Yeah,
why?
Which is a great skill to have.
It is, but like he would just do it. Like why?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
it's just an interesting dude.
Fair enough.
And he was known for. So they used to have Buhner Buzz Cut night, so the fans would come and you could.
Oh wow!
And sometimes he would show up and do a couple of them. And yeah, he was just just a fun personality. You know, I got to be in the locker room a few times, and he was just always hilarious and joking around, and just, you know, big personality.
Right.
Yeah, just a lot of fun and very productive during some of the best years of the Mariners.
For
whatever
sure.
that is.
Yeah, seriously. All right, so for my number 7 spot, we are going with King Felix Hernandez. Obviously, great player on my favorite baseball team, but King, I mean, I grew up with him, you know. He was, you know, he started every opening day I can really remember up until, last year, 2 years ago, I think. Just obviously, I mean, there's not a ton to be said about him, you know. Perfect game, absolute stud. Stayed with Seattle through the dark times, which, I mean, you know, all props to him. He did not have to stay in Seattle and waste his career away. And it's really sad to see him go to the Braves, but I hope that, you know, I hope he gets a ring, honestly. I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't have a ring. So even if he pitches one inning in the playoffs, I hope he strikes them all out and gets his ring, and he can ride off into the sunset and still retire as a Mariner.
Yeah, you know, I know a lot of people are down on those last couple of years, but, you know, I don't think people should have that attitude toward him. I mean, he got, you know, they rode him hard for a long time, and he won a hell of a lot of games. Should have won a couple more Cy Youngs, in my opinion, but
definitely
his win-loss record wasn't good. The number of 1-0 game or 2-1 games that he lost is absurd.
By the way, anyone that's been hating on Felix for the last 2 years, like, you know, we've made our jokes obviously to each other. Anyone that's been actually hating on Felix the last 2 years, 1, fuck you. 2, you're gonna look really dumb in like 10 years. Just saying. So delete those Facebook posts while you can. Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So my next guy is you have his jersey, number 80, Steve Largent.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And he, you know, so I moved after, you know, watching Roger Staubach lose the Super Bowl. I moved out here not too long after that, and there's a bunch of things I like about Largent. You know, first of all, he's lost in the shuffle these days. The NFL game has totally changed. But when he retired, he had most of the receiving records, you know, touchdowns, consecutive games, yards, receptions. I mean, he was either number 1 or very high in all those categories. And then, you know, if you're watching this, you've probably seen this highlight. If you haven't, Google it. Just stop this podcast and fucking Google this right now. Steve Largent and Mike Harden was defensive back. So Harden had hit Largent earlier in the season, I think. I don't think it was the same game. I think it was earlier in the season, and Largent never forgot the kind of hot, you know, hit to the head. So so Harden picks off a pass, and Largent just freaking leveled him. I mean, just destroyed him. The guy fumbles the ball. Largent, one of the most clean cut guys ever.
Yeah.
Never trash talk. Larden, you can see in the video, he's standing over him, looking at him like almost like talking something to him, and then he's like, "Oh shit, the ball's on the ground." He probably didn't say "oh shit," but and he dives on the ball and gets the fumble.
Wow.
So but he was just you know, I think he was a late round pick. I don't remember which round. For Houston, I think it was the Oilers.
Yeah.
Got cut and became, you know, one of the great receivers of all time, and kind of was my first Seattle sports love for sure.
For sure, yeah. That can be said for Felix as well, and wow, I don't have him on the list. Shout out Ichiro. Sorry, he's nowhere to be seen on this list, but he should be at least an honorable mention.
You know, Ichiro. Yeah, Ichiro. You know, gosh, he was great too. But again, we just don't have that personal connection.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
He could actually speak English pretty well, but just kind of wanted to keep that distance away. I think, and he kind of distanced himself. I think. You know,
that's a good
I loved
point.
watching him play, but it was hard to just never saw personality.
Actually, yeah, that is a good point. You know, I think that was the thought process I had when making this list. So yeah, I need Need to remember that. But yeah, number 6, my am I gonna say it? My favorite point guard of all time,
Ooh.
Damian Lillard.
Wow.
Damian
Wow.
Lillard, Dame time. I think I will look back on Damian Lillard as right now he's my second favorite player in the NBA, behind LeBron. But Dame is a more personal favorite for me. A kid that came from Oakland, he had a gun pointed at his face at one point, almost didn't make it out. Um, he really came from nothing and just signed a $200 million contract. Good for him. And what really pushed him up this list for me was the game that we attended.
Yeah.
So our profile picture for our SoundCloud and our YouTube currently as we are recording this is a picture of both of us with Magic Johnson. That game, we did not plan for it to be this game, sadly. That game happened to be the first game the Lakers played since Kobe Bryant's passing. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. We just so happened to have tickets to that game. And that game, I mean, wow, he spoiled the night for a lot of Lakers fans, unfortunately. I mean, he dropped, 47 or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, and we both, at multiple times, I think he hit 2 threes in a row, and I think we looked at each other and said, well, this game's over. And keep in mind, half of the fourth quarter is left and it's still a 5-point game. We just go, yep. The fourth quarter, he didn't do a ton. It was actually the third quarter where he started going off, I think.
So, yeah.
It was the third quarter. So, yeah, he hits 2 threes in a row. And we're just like, oh, God, here comes Dame time, And we're sitting next to all Lakers fans. And it was kind of sad to watch him go off, but I love Dame. And he's someone that, the way he plays is just awesome. I mean, he plays so fearless. And talk about a guy that gets hot. I mean, I love that. A guy that once he gets going, you can't stop him. I mean, the only other guy I can think of in the NBA that gets hot like Dame can is probably Klay Thompson. The way he shoots,
right.
He'll drop 36 in the quarter randomly.
Yeah.
But yeah, Damian Lillard, just absolute stud. Love him.
Yeah, for sure. Fun to watch. Great player. Knocked the Thunder out of the playoffs and talked about.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't even mention that. How did I not even mention that?
So he earned my love right there.
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously, go Sonics. He
sure.
dismantled the Thunder, although their future might actually look pretty bright, unfortunately, with Shea.
Fuck the Thunder. Fuck him.
Fuck the Thunder. But Shea Gilgeous-Alexander actually kind of looks like a
Twister
beast.
hauls their asses right out of Oklahoma and drops him somewhere else.
Man, yeah, I mean. Yeah, he became my hero that night. I mean, Sonics fans were rejoicing over the internet. Sonics fans were coming out of the woodworks, people that hadn't talked about basketball in a decade. And, absolutely just celebrating. Yeah. And who knew we would absolutely dismantle him like that, too? I mean, Russ and Paul George both gone, and within however many, weeks, I think.
Right, yeah,
so,
yeah. Finished him off. I like it.
Yeah.
Next guy on my list is another Seahawk from back in the day, kind of, in my early years of fandom with being here in Seattle, and that's Kenny Easley, Hall of Famer, number 45. If I'm not a jersey guy typically, but I'm going to get a Kenny Easley jersey one of these days.
Shout out Uncle Pat. Doesn't he have a signed Kenny Easley?
I think he does.
I think, yeah. I was over at Chandler's dad's house, and he just came home with a signed Kenny Easley jersey that he won in an auction, and we were just like, oh, that's pretty dope, yeah.
Yeah, he was, so he and Ronnie Lott playing for the 49ers. Seahawks were in the AFC then, so basically they were the AFC and the NFC safeties. And Kenny was a very athletic player, so he was a thumper, but he also could make those precision plays and acrobatic plays, interceptions, could run it back.
Yeah.
His career got cut short due to a kidney issue. Too much ibuprofen. He and the Seahawks battled over that for years because he felt like they didn't, inform him enough about what was going on.
I did not know about that. I knew he retired early because of that.
But for 5-6 years there, he was you could argue he was the best defensive player in the game.
And he does not get respect.
No, he
the respect
doesn't.
he deserves. I mean, you hear about Ronnie Lott, every 30 seconds when they talk about
Right.
the greatest defensive players, but Kenny Easley almost never gets brought up in that conversation.
Yeah.
He's a guy that I don't know enough about, honestly. I should watch some more of his highlights and stuff because
he's great. And some of that is just winning Super Bowls.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Seahawks didn't do that until fairly recently here.
Yeah. So I think number 5. This I played baseball the most out of any sport, and this man I definitely looked up to the most as a hitter, and that would be Edgar Martinez. I never really watched him play at all. I mean, when did he retire? I don't remember.
You were 4 years old.
Yeah, I don't ever remember even seeing him hit a ball live. But he's a guy that he would just spray doubles everywhere. I was a very similar hitter in that, he could pull one out of the park for sure. But he was a big doubles guy, and we both agree that doubles are a very overlooked stat.
Yeah.
Getting to second base is just crucial in baseball, and he did it a lot. I mean. He's a guy that especially as I got out of Little League, I wasn't hitting home runs really, but I just looked up to Edgar Martinez, and like his on base percentage, his on base plus slugging, just absolutely insane for his whole career. We actually went to the Mariners game while they were showing him getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. That was pretty sweet. So we got some memorabilia from that somewhere, but yeah, I mean. I modeled the way I hit after him. I modeled my mentality after him. Being patient, finding your pitch, and putting it in a spot that you can get around the bases.
Yeah, I mean he was so good. First of all, at hitting to all fields, which you don't see as much anymore. And he would take a walk.
Yeah,
he would absolutely take a walk.
Yeah.
He was not a selfish player. Wasn't focused on punching it into the deck. I mean he was perfectly willing to take what was given to him.
Yeah.
Was a decent third baseman early in his career, but had some injury issues, and that's why he ended up being a DH. But yeah, I love that guy. I was, you wore number 11.
Yep.
And I was very happy that you had Edgar's number, because he's just a fantastic player.
Yeah, and the reason I wore
great guy too.
Yeah. The reason I wore number 11 was actually because the original reason was I wanted number 10 because of Jake Locker, but they did not have that available on my football team, so I chose 11. So that's the original reason. But as I started to like Edgar, as I started to get to know Edgar. That became a point of pride for my number as well. Is sharing his number is pretty awesome. Especially he's retired as a Mariner now, obviously in the Hall of Fame. So yeah, respect to Edgar.
And you gotta love those guys that play their whole career.
Oh
for
yeah,
one team.
absolutely.
There's just something special about that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, next guy on my list, another Seahawks safety, Bam Bam.
Cam Chancellor all the way up there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I absolutely love the way he played the game. It was more of an old school type game.
Yeah.
So he was drafted, I think, 5th round.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people said he shouldn't have been drafted at all.
Mm-hmm.
They said he can't cover, or maybe he'll be a linebacker. But the guy was just a beast, and he was an intimidator out there.
Yeah.
Figured out, got fined some early in his career. Being a 5th round pick, I think that his rookie year, he pretty much gave his salary back to the NFL because he kept getting fined.
Jesus.
But he started to figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
how to hit a guy, the timing of it. And then I think, the definition of him is if you watch that Super Bowl victory, Demaryius Thomas comes across the middle, catches a pass, and Cam Chancellor just absolutely destroyed the guy. And really that's what he did. You could see it if you watch the Seahawks. You could see guys like, where is that fucking lunatic? Should I catch that? And they would alligator the ball because they were just terrified. They knew, and you could see him. They would drop a pass or catch it and duck. And he was just the intimidator on that team.
And my favorite part about that Demaryius Thomas play is, if I'm not mistaken, we had a sizable lead at that point. He did not have to lay. I'm pretty sure we were up like 30 or something, like fairly late. So he by no means had to really lay the boom there. But I mean, it's the Super Bowl. He just wanted to hit everyone, and also that Vernon Davis hit. I think that's probably my favorite hit of all time.
Yeah.
I think if I think I should have put Cam Chancellor on my list somewhere. Honestly, I think I would probably replace him with maybe Pat Bev or the bartender. But yeah, definitely yeah, he has to be on my list for sure too. I don't know how I left him off, honestly. So number 4 for me, we share a name, and he provided the most electric play I've seen live of all time. Oh. That Channer, Uncle Pat, Taylor. Sorry you guys had to miss this.
Yeah.
Mason Foster. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Mason Foster versus Arizona pick 6. Just look it up, watch it. Hit off the guy's shoe. I mean, man, I've never seen a crowd go crazier than that. I don't think I'll ever see a play crazier than that live. The crowd, it was insane. And I mean, I thought the game, I kind of thought the game was over at that point. I think everyone did. We were like, all right. And I think Nick Foles at the helm, right? Was it Nick Foles a QB?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So, I mean, Nick Foles, obviously a great college quarterback. And I think at that point we were just like, oh, God, all they need is a first down. I'm pretty sure the situation was that all they needed was 1 or 2 first downs, and they win. So, yeah, I mean, and also he's a great NFL player now. Very underrated, I'd say.
Yeah.
Always up there in tackles in the league. Someone that really doesn't get talked about.
And he was not a big recruit. Mm-hmm. Not expected to do much. Turned out to be a great player. And yeah, I remember that night so well. You're sitting there when you're watching a game, and when your team's getting beaten, you're trying to figure out when do I leave?
Yeah.
When do I leave this shit? Right? And you're just pissed. But you don't want to be that guy that leaves and hears the crowd roar.
Uncle Pat.
You don't want to hear about it the next day.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a sports fan long enough, something happens to you where you do that. Mm-hmm. You turn off a game. Fuck them.
Yep.
You turn it off, and then later you're like, oh shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually, you were a kid, and you're like, should we go? And I'm like, they're probably going to lose this game, but there's some things could happen, and it's still possible for them to win the game. And you needed that type of play. I mean, we were to the point where you were in that miracle land where you needed something crazy to happen, and that was crazy. That was that might be the greatest play I've ever seen live for sure.
Yeah.
Really ever. So.
And also the crazy thing about that is I don't know how I was exactly at that age, but for a long time there, I refused to leave a Husky game early.
Yeah.
So it's pretty peculiar that I would have wanted to leave that one early. So you helped me avoid that. So maybe I think hopefully I learned my lesson through Uncle Pat and Channer and Taylor. Yeah. I mean, I think after that, it might have been because of that actually. I don't know. It might have been because of that. I refused to. I remember just for years and years, I would refuse to let us leave a UW game early, no matter the score.
Yeah, we did not beat traffic. Ever.
No, never beat traffic. That was just expected. So, yeah, go ahead.
A good one, yeah. Okay, so this one's a little bit out there.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a walk-on player at the UW, and I love it when a walk-on becomes a contributor to a team. I just think that's so cool. I think it's inspiring
for sure
to the players on the team.
Yeah, Rudy type stuff.
Yeah. But this guy, so his name was Joe Jarzinka.
Yes, you've told me about Joe Jarzinka, and I think I might be the only UW fan under the age of 40 to know who that is.
So he was, for some reason, he's a little 5'7" white guy, which for some odd reason I connected to that. He had like long flowing like mullet like hair coming out from under his helmet, and I remember him taking the field. He was a punt returner. You're like, who the fuck is this guy? And there's a bunch of things that I liked about Joe Jarzinka, other than him being my height.
Right.
So the dude would not fair catch. He would not fair catch. So he would either catch it and return it, or catch it and get freaking destroyed. And he's this little guy.
Yeah.
Just get freaking destroyed. Knock 10 yards back on his ass. just hop right up and next play. Never looked hurt, nothing. Just get right back up.
Did he muff any?
Not that I can remember.
Wow.
If he did, I don't remember it happening.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not muffing it, then that's just badass.
Yeah, because normally now if I watch a game, I get pissed at a guy that does that. You're like, what the hell are you doing?
You're gonna drop the ball, you idiot.
But I don't think he ever did.
Wow.
Certainly not in a key situation.
Right.
Because I would remember that. But he would also get penalties called because they would. They used to, I think they've changed the rule, but they used to have what they called it a halo rule. So you had to give a guy like 2 yards to catch it.
Yeah.
Now you just can't interfere with them. Mm-hmm. So it's a little tighter rule. But guys would get in his halo all the time. So he would get a little 5-yard penalty out of it.
Hell yeah.
Quite often. But here's the thing that I really love. So I forget what it was, 97 or 98. Somewhere around there, but they had a really shitty kicker that year. And shitty kicker, if you're watching, I apologize. I don't remember your name. I hope you're having a good life, but you sucked at kicking. So Joe Jarzinka was like, well, shit, coach, I can kick a ball. So Joe Jarzinka ends up, how many times do you see your punt returner become your kicker?
0.
Yeah, like you'd have to go back to the 50s probably.
Yeah.
So he becomes their kicker, and he was he a great kicker? No, but he was a solid kicker. He could pretty much hit anything under 45 yards.
That's all you need.
I know he made a 44-yarder.
Right.
Yeah, he just you could count on him.
Yeah.
And the other guy was missing 29 yards hooking it. Jarzinka, fuck yeah, as long as it's not too long, he can make them. So
all you gotta do is put it through.
Very inspiring, badass player. I heard he had a lot of luck with the ladies on campus too, from what I understand. So
good for him.
Good job, Joe.
Yeah, good job, Joe. Okay, my number 3 spot, the Beastquake, Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone listening knows, take care of your chicken, take care of your mentals. I mean, like, there's really not a ton to be said once again about Marshawn. I mean, just every time he stepped up to do an interview, you knew something funny was gonna happen. Every time he got a carry, you knew someone was getting popped or dragged 10 yards. And along with Clipboard Jesus, of course, took down the defending champions Saints, and obviously Beastquake, probably the most electric play in Seattle sports history.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said it before, but like, what's not to love about him? Everything. I mean, he's by all accounts I've heard, he's a good dude. He's definitely a lot smarter than he comes off as to a lot of people. There are a lot of people that write him off as just being, kind of some dumb guy because of the way he talks. Right. But he has some smart things to say for sure when he decides to really give his interviews a little effort. Which, by the way, when he gives his interviews effort, they're not as entertaining most of the time. But
true.
But even when he was, the things he said about taking care of your chicken, taking care of your mentals, there are a lot of people that laughed at that. But, the young guys of the NFL really need to hear that. I mean, I don't know what the stat is, but a large percent of NFL players end up going bankrupt.
Yeah.
So,
I guess he's very good with his money, hardly spends it. Other players come to him for advice, which is, when you see him talking, you think that you're like, what?
Yeah,
really? He's a financial advisor?
Yeah. But, he was set to do the commencement speech at Princeton, which of course some of the rich whites were mad about somehow.
Damn, I would have loved to have seen that.
God, I know.
That'd be great.
I wonder if he'll still do it. I
hope so.
I mean, that's the only commencement speech I would have watched. I don't think I'll go to my own commencement speech whenever I graduate. So, Marshawn just.
And I think every great team needs a screwball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody to keep things loose. I mean, first of all, he inspired his whole team by the way he ran the football.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive line was like, damn, okay, I could
get
block
behind
for
that,
this guy.
get in front of that.
Like, if he can do this, if he can run over that defensive lineman, I shouldn't be getting my ass pushed back. So he did that. So he inspired them with that kind of play. Hell, I should have put Earl Campbell on my list, but just one of the, just that rare guy that you're just like, how the hell did he keep moving right there? Just how many times did we say that about him?
I mean, the run that just embodied the way he ran the ball. Was that last touchdown he scored, where he popped the guy, span through it, and then dove into the end zone. I mean, that just embodied the way he ran the football, and it was almost tear jerking in a way to see that. It was like, damn. I mean, that's Marshawn. He's always gonna be a Seahawk in my heart. I hope he'll definitely retire as a Seahawk.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer.
It's going to be close.
Yeah.
It's going to be close. I don't know if he has the career numbers quite.
Yeah,
but
he's a Hall of Fame personality at the very least.
Oh, yeah.
So he'll be someone that, even if he's not a Hall of Famer, he'll be remembered like one for
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah, go ahead.
He's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, this next guy is a Hall of Famer. And I said that I didn't have too many great players, Hall of Fame level players on my list, and this one. Ken Griffey Jr. is on the list, but it's not just because, he hit so many home runs, but he put Seattle on the map.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So when I moved out here in '79, and the Mariners sucked. The Seahawks had a couple nice little runs here and there with Largent and those guys. They were okay, but people knew who Largent was, but I'd go back east and they're like, where's Seattle? Or you'd say you're from Washington and they thought you meant Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Where's Seattle? Where do they still are you guys still like fighting the Indians? They'd watch Cowboys and Indians movies and thought we were in the Wild West. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was ridiculous. No internet, right? So they didn't have any real image.
That's funny. Oh my god.
It's crazy.
That's hilarious.
So Griffey comes along, and this was before Microsoft Microsoft was there, but it was before it blew up. It was before Starbucks was real big. So people knew we made jet planes.
Yeah.
But that was about it. But Griffey comes along, and everybody knows who Griffey is because, first of all, he's such a great player. Came in when I was a teenager and got big through the early 90s, but just the joy he had for the game. It's funny, I don't like it when people wear their hat backwards, but I liked it when he did for some reason, just because he had this joy, this big smile. Kid, well, they called him the Kid because he just was like a kid playing baseball. Could he have kept his belly a little smaller at times, or hit the weights a little bit more, prolonged his the greatness of his career? Maybe. But man, he was fun, and just every pitch, you're like, you went to a Mariners game, and you're like, everybody get your gloves out because this one could be coming into the seats.
And on the defensive end too, every pitch he knew he could make the best play of this generation.
Oh my gosh!
Any given pitch,
up over the wall, Spider-Man climbing up the wall,
breaking his ankle.
Yeah, and he had great speed, and he could have been a great base stealer. He stole some bases. They didn't have him. Piniella wasn't a big base stealing guy, so he didn't do a lot of that. But he had that kind of speed.
Right.
He had good speed, but you don't want to. You don't want to take away the power hitting. So
I mean, he's just the prototype 5-tool baseball player.
Oh gosh, yeah,
absolute prototype. It's
fun to watch. And again, I can't stress enough. Just Seattle needed a sports hero, and he was one that was nationally known.
Yeah.
Before you had to get your. We used to watch George Michael's Sports Machine. It was the, this is before ESPN was big,
right.
but you'd watch all the highlights.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't have ESPN then, and he was a guy that would show up on national broadcasts, and no other Seattle athlete did. So yeah, he was incredible.
Right. My number 2 spot. This might be a surprise to you too.
Okay.
In fact, I think it will be. He is someone that. He's one of my favorite athletes, but not even during his athletic career. Not because of his athletic career. He was, electric to watch on the field for sure. Great at, he was one of the only kickers in NFL history, or kickers/punters in NFL history, to really utilize onside kicks, which I think was awesome. He's a guy that I see as just so inspiring on a daily basis. A big inspiration to why we are here today. That will be Pat McAfee.
Wow.
So, this...
For the brand.
For the brand, yeah, for the brand. I mean, you could, this one was interesting for me. This was another another pick that I didn't know whether to put on the list or not. But I knew if he was going to be on the list, he was going to be way up there. Just the only punter that got cheered for when he came on the field. I mean, offense would go 3 and out, and the home crowd would be cheering when Pat McAfee came out on the field. Just crazy, you know. He's a guy that has always been hilarious on social media, and a guy that when he retired early and turned down, I think $6 million or something, people were calling him an idiot. But now he's turned his little podcast into a media empire. I think he said it was valued at over 100 million, which is crazy.
Wow.
Just a guy that he didn't understand social media at first, but he's a guy that learned quick and was able to adapt very quickly to kind of the changing format of media nowadays. And someone I think is just someone I look up to as far as he works so hard. He's always doing more. He starts the Pat McAfee show, does it Monday through Friday. Damn, he works hard. And then he starts the pod, where it's just a separate podcast where they talk about just random stuff, and then you're like, wow, he's doing 2 of those a day. That's crazy. Plus he's putting out extra content on YouTube. And then he starts McAfee and Hawk Sports Talk. So now he's talking for like 6 hours a day. And he's a guy that he's one of the only people on radio or TV or any of these that he runs out of time to talk. Like he can talk about something and make it interesting for hours. I mean, just for one topic. And again, I mean, none of this has to do with his athletic career, but seeing as he was an athlete that I did love to watch. When he was playing. I've watched his highlights, even before he was really in media and before I watched his show. But yeah, just a guy I look up to, definitely.
Yeah, he is entertaining, and gosh, he's done, jumping off of boats and for college game day.
Yeah,
and
he pushes the boundaries.
Yeah, he's been on, does all. It's amazing the different things that he does.
He goes on Get Up every Friday,
yeah.
which is so early, and then he goes straight to his show, and then records a podcast, and then records with AJ Hawk about more sports. And it's
funny. I enjoy him more probably on the podcast than on game day and things like that, because you can only talk so much on those other formats.
Yeah.
So he can't really get going.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do enjoy listening to him.
Yeah. Shout out to the pod, by the way. It's Unfiltered with Pat McAfee and the boys.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. So yeah, go ahead and check that one out.
That's great.
After you watch this, though. Yeah, we're nearing the end here, though. Nearing the end.
We are. I'm down to my number one.
You're down to your number one?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Who is it?
So number one. One of the great Seattle athletes of all time. I hated him for a while. Before he was with the Sonics.
Yeah.
And it's Gary Payton, the glove.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love him.
Oh my gosh. So what I loved about him, so he was starring for the Sonics around the time where I was playing a lot of basketball, just like street ball, pickup ball on the blacktop, and I wasn't any good.
Yeah.
But I prided myself on playing defense as hard as I possibly could. So if I only scored 4 points, but you only scored 2,
that's
great.
A good game.
I win.
That's
right?
a good game. Yeah.
And he scored more than 4 points.
Yeah,
he was a good scorer too. He could finish.
Yeah, good passer.
One of the great finishers in league history, honestly, if you really watch the highlights. But defense is where it all came from, and he really prided himself on that. I don't know. This would be a good one to look up, but like how many point guards have won Defensive Player of the Year? It's almost none.
Yeah.
It's usually wing or especially until
centers.
Recently it was centers
Blocks,
for block
leaders.
shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, and rebounds and things like that.
Yeah.
But and he would just talk the whole game. Nobody intimidated by nobody.
Yeah.
Gets in Jordan's face.
Oh yeah. I mean my screen. I guess I'm recording on my phone, but my screensaver is Gary Payton in the middle of saying "fuck you" to Jordan. You can see he's like loading up the fuck. It's pretty funny.
So he went to Oregon State when I was in college, and UW basketball team was fucking terrible then.
Yeah.
I mean, they had more fans at the women's games than at the men's games because the women were good. And there were like they would say there were 2,000 people there, but sometimes, man, you could hear your voice echoing in the rafters. But so he would battle with Eldridge Rakasner, and Eldridge played in the league for quite a while, and he's a great commentator now on the Pac-12 network.
Oh, okay.
He does a nice job, but they would go back and forth, and it was so much fun to watch. And I hated him then, but man, I just loved just the energy and badass. He didn't miss games. He had one of the longest streaks in NBA history in terms of games played, which got broken up because he headbutted. I think his name was Vinny Del Negro.
I didn't even know that.
He headbutted Vinny Del Negro, got suspended for a game, and that ended his streak.
Oh, no. I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow.
But just the energy that he brought, and again, the defense. I love defense, and he brought it. Never took a play off. If he rested ever, it was going to be on offense. And the great lob man for the Rain Man, as well.
Oh yeah, I have the Rain Man's jersey right there. So,
I almost put him on my list too. If he hadn't started like doing a bunch of blow and asking for trades, he might have made the list. But I love the Rain Man too, but it was kind of an ugly end with him. But GP. Yeah.
Legendary Gary Payton story. I'm shouting out everyone on this podcast right now, but shout out Mike Korzemba. He makes some pretty interesting content on YouTube. He did a video about Gary Payton, and I think it was pretty much just the best trash talk stories from Gary Payton. I think that's what the whole video is about. And the number one story was when he was at Oregon State. I think I told you this. He was shooting alone in the gym, and there's a reporter just waiting to do an interview with him. No one else in the gym. And he was talking shit to the air as he was shooting threes. He's going, "You can't fucking guard me. Get out of here with that shit." Like, he's just talking shit to nobody when he's just putting up shots. Just absolutely. And when he was asked about it, he was like, "I didn't even realize. Like, that's just what he did. It was just second nature. When he put up a shot, he'd say, 'Fuck you.'" Like just plain and simple. So, I mean, that's just absolutely hilarious. Shout out Gary Payton for sure. All right, so my number one spot.
Oh, boy.
He's featured on the wall that my phone is taped to 4 different times. It's the boy.
Oh my gosh.
Jake Locker. Number 8, 8 pick? 8, I believe?
I think so.
Number 8?
Yeah.
Obviously, career didn't turn out very well in the NFL, but I don't even care about that.
Nope.
As I said earlier, I wanted to be number 10 because of Jake Locker. I have a signed Jake Locker jersey directly next to where my phone is taped to on the wall for this podcast. Watch the highlights, I mean, he was, I think, the first player that I recall falling in love with. He was the first player that, me and, shout out Chandler again, we just were obsessed with Jake Locker. I mean, there's a picture of me meeting him, and I look like I'm about to shit my pants. Like, he's probably the first person I was ever truly starstruck by, and the first athlete that I watched play and I was just in love with. And I say I didn't really care that he was a bust, but I really did. I was very sad when he was getting injured and stuff, just because I was such a huge fan of him. I was surprised when he was the eighth pick too, though. I mean, that was a very high pick, but yeah, I mean, one of the best Husky quarterbacks. I mean, just so fun to watch. Yeah, so fun to watch.
And he was, so UW had that downturn, and he came along, and man, I don't know if they ever get back to being, a kind of, at least I would say, second tier team right now. I don't know if they get back to that without him coming, because he. We had nothing for a while there, and he comes along and was just so beloved, and other recruits are coming along with him. I remember, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we get to a game one time really early, and it's pouring rain. We're like the only ones in the stadium that early, and you're like a little kid, and you go down and you put your hand out.
Oh my God! I just remember. That's a repressed memory you just brought back to life.
You put your hand out, and there are a couple guys. Some guys slapping your hand. A lot of players just running by, like, who gives a shit about this little kid? But he slowed down, and and looked you in the eye and said, "Hey, buddy," and slapped your hand.
God, wow! How did I not even remember
Yeah.
that? Wow, that is insane. Because that's a repressed memory that just came all the way back up to the top of my brain.
And
Wow,
that was the
that's
most
nuts.
popular guy on the team,
Yeah.
taking that just a half second to make
I mean,
your day good.
most
you know?
most popular guy in the UW program in a very long time. He
And then
Yeah, he, I mean, like you said, he really brought life back to the program. Sark kind of was he a Sark recruit?
no, he was recruited by the one who shouldn't be named,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Ty Willingham. But so I don't know how he got him, but he did.
yeah.
And he played, and then he got hurt and missed a season, and that's the season that they missed is another one we
Yeah.
don't want to talk about. But then
Yeah.
he comes back, and they start building it back up, and so after his junior year, he definitely could have been a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Top 10 for sure. But he wanted to come back. He loved college. He felt like he wanted to finish something and get them back to a bowl game. And not only did he get them back to a bowl game, but they beat Nebraska.
One of my favorite
revenge game.
I think that's my favorite bowl win from my time.
It meant so much.
As a UW fan,
Yeah.
I think like in my lifetime, I think I mean they won the Rose Bowl in 2001, but I don't count that because I don't remember that obviously.
Yeah.
This game, I remember we were. I can actually see the house we were in. I'm pretty sure weren't we at Mateo's house, the Fishers?
Yeah.
The worst day of my life was. I couldn't tell you the exact date, but it was UW versus Nebraska at UW. This is the day. Was it the day that we put him down, or the day I found out?
They found out that he had short time left.
Yeah. So my the dog that I had grown up with since I was born, pretty much.
Yeah.
Tucker. I found out that day. I'm 11 or 10 or 11 at the time.
Yeah.
I find out that day that. He has a very limited time left. We're going to have to put him down. So I'm just devastated. I'm sobbing, obviously. Still wanted to go to the UW game because I thought it would cheer me up. We roll in late, and we hear, we don't hear very much cheering, I don't think. And we walk to our seats, and wasn't it 28 to nothing?
It was, I want to say we walk into the stadium, and somehow I knew it was, I think it was 22 to nothing.
Okay,
I might be off a little
yeah,
bit.
Yeah.
We walked into the stadium, and then we decided to get some food. So by the time we get our barbecue, we could hear
I remember the
another
barbecue
touchdown.
sandwiches we ate.
Yeah, those were good sandwiches. That was
really
the best
good,
part of that day.
Best part of that day by far. That's funny.
And so they score another touchdown before we even get to our seats. And we get to our seats, and the game is over before we even sit down.
I was crying. I was crying walking into the stadium. I think I was crying while I was eating my sandwich. Yeah. And just seeing the score of that game, I'm pretty sure I just started crying harder, and the people around us were like, "Why is he here?" But I thought that the UW game, especially at the time, UW football was, one of my sanctuaries. I always called Husky Stadium my second home, just because we were there for every home game. So in my mind, go see a UW game. At the time, it wasn't expected that they'd win. Really, what was the guy's name? Tino. Something.
Martinez?
Was
no,
it?
not
Not
Tino. It
Tino.
wasn't Tino Martinez.
No.
But was it? I don't know.
It was something Martinez. Anyway, he just ran all over us. It was
Yeah.
terrible. But I think it wasn't that same year. It was the next year, right?
I think so.
I think it was the year after that year in the bowl game. We beat Nebraska.
It's on your wall there.
It's on my wall. Yeah,
19-7?
Revenge is sweet. You see a picture of who's number 11 there, the wide receiver. He's jumping on top of Chris Polk and Jake Locker after they score a touchdown. I think that was kind of to seal the deal. What does it say? 19-7? Is that what it says?
I think it was
there?
19-7.
Yeah, 19-7. I mean that was one of my favorite games I've ever watched. I think that game actually turned Mateo into a UW fan. So yeah, I mean, Jake Locker. It took quite a bit of time to kind of mold that over, but I think, who else would I have gone with? It's Jake Locker. That's my hero from my early sports fan days. So
yeah, for sure.
Fond memories of him.
Me too. Even though I was older and I've watched a lot of football.
Yeah.
Just such a likable guy. Just a very friendly person too. Just a good dude. So.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna look over your list real quick. I don't think we had any of the same guys, huh?
No.
Interesting. I thought Jake Locker might make an appearance on your list.
I knew you were gonna. I knew he would be on your list.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I wrote him. I think I put him at the
Oh
bottom.
yeah, with John Brockman.
was
Shout
like-
out John Brockman too. He almost made my list.
Yeah,
he's the other jersey. Right now you guys are taped on a wall in between a signed Jake Locker jersey and a John Brockman jersey. By the way.
Yeah. But yeah, he definitely would be on my list. But I figured, I'd leave him for you.
Good. Yeah, good decision there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I would have put Cam Chancellor on my list if I had I thought of him too. I don't know why I didn't. I just pretty much wrote down just a huge list of every single player that I was even considering. I don't know how he didn't end up on that first list, but if he was on that first list, I think he would have made the top 10. I mean, this is interesting. I think both of our lists were surprising to each other relatively.
Yeah,
So-
there were a few surprises there.
Yeah,
You know,
For sure.
walk-ons and punters.
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
don't expect that, but again, sometimes we all connect to different types of players.
definitely. And I think that's why this was kind of a good kickoff episode. No pun intended there with Pat McAfee, but this was a good kickoff episode because we could list my favorite athletes are Russell Wilson and
Yeah.
Ichiro and Felix and Ken Griffey Jr. and Gary Payton. Like we could just do that.
Yeah.
But these are guys that I mean you didn't even know I was like a big fan of Pat Bev or
No,
like,
I
I
had
was
no
or
idea.
if I was that big of a fan of the bartender really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that was really interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, it was
I
fun.
don't
It
know.
was fun.
So I guess that kind of wraps it up.
Yeah, would love to hear who your favorites are.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this will be up on my Twitter and your Facebook.
Yeah.
So yeah, this will be up. If you know us, you'll see
You'll
that on our
find it.
social media. Shout out to my Twitter at Mason Charles Coe. I'm gonna be tweeting, I think, a little bit more off there. A lot more sports stuff. Also, if you're listening to this, I don't know why you'd be listening to this still, but no, but yeah. So just follow us there. Go ahead. I think comments will definitely be turned on the YouTube. So if you guys want, for whatever, leave feedback. Don't just shit on us, please. But if you have constructive criticism, let us know. We know that probably the audio wasn't perfect or the video. We probably said and like a lot. You could probably hear us go a ton. So yeah, just we'll hear that kind of stuff. But if you have some constructive criticism for us, we'd love to hear it. And then do you want to shout out anything?
I do have a little bit of breaking news.
Breaking news.
Sort of.
Okay.
Not really.
Yeah.
But I do have a novel coming out.
Woo!
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. It is actually available now from the publisher, which is lulu.com. That's LULU.com.
Lulu.com?
Yeah. It'll soon be available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and places like that. We're probably a couple weeks away from being there. So it'll be...
Who knows with all the stuff going on?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Electronic version, you can get that. And
I need
also
to
the
read
hardback
that.
cover.
I haven't even read it
I
yet.
know.
I need to read it.
You can wait for the hardcover to come out.
True. Yeah.
I know a guy who can get you one. Yeah, so check that out. You got nothing better to do right now, so you might as well
seriously.
read a book
Y'all
and
got
listen to our
time-
podcast.
Y'all got time to read and listen to this, so there's no excuse really. No, but seriously, if you have made it this far, I mean, shout out to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Again, leave some comments, stuff you like, stuff you didn't like. If there's anything you want us to talk about in the future, we have some ideas, Seattle Sports Mount Rushmore. That'll be more of just kind of the best players from Seattle. Yeah, we have some other ideas in the works for the pod, but just go ahead and let us know. Yeah, again, shout out to you guys.
Thank you.
If you're watching this deep in the future, shout out to you. Maybe you're watching this in 2022, and we've done 100 episodes.
Yeah.
And we're reading ads now. Maybe.
That'd be great.
Maybe. Wow.
That'd be great. Well, yeah.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
This was the Coe Show. See you next time.